So give us just your broad view. I like to ask all of our sort of marquee market guests to just give a broad view first of how they see the market. And it's been a historic week, as we said. So now that we're at the end of it, give us your view, please.
Sure. Well, just first like to say thanks for having me. And, our heart goes out to the folks that are fighting this illness and that have family members that are fighting it. And we owe a serious debt of gratitude to the brave healthcare workers that are on the front lines of this crisis. And this is their 9/11. And so we need to kind of focus on them a little bit too. But as an investor, I think it's been a fascinating balance watching the market deal with this health crisis where the right path and that's being recommended by our public health officials is to have everyone stay at home and really not conduct commerce with, what the risk is financially that when we do come out of this, that everyone has jobs to go back to and that we keep the economy running enough to get food and supplies to and everything we need to live in between now and whenever that curve gets bent down or flattened. So that's that's balance we're watching. I think this week has obviously been a huge turning point. I think it got untenable for the president and Congress to continue to ask citizens to think about this being a 4, 5, 6 month process. And so we started talking about giving some hope and talking about coming out of it sooner than that, and maybe thinking about a different way of getting the economy going, maybe with letting younger people change their behaviors. And we haven't quite gotten to that, but I think that's what the market's anticipating.
So it's easy for us, all the way across the country, frankly, to, be fixated on the perspective and the point of view here in the New York City, greater, New York metro area. We're just across the river from a city that is hurting pretty badly. And the numbers are going to likely only, get more alarming. We certainly hope not, but you have to be prepared for that. So, some 3,000 or so miles away, what's it like in the Valley as you're thinking about this return to normalcy at some point, and just what you see out where you are? Yeah,
so it's pretty fascinating. I think one, you have to give some credit to Silicon Valley for not only doing stepping up, and you just talked about Apple a second ago, but in recent times and treating this as a crisis where they need to be part of the solution very quickly. But if you really think about it, the tech industry over the last 10 to 20 years has built this incredible infrastructure that is allowing our healthy population in the United States and really the world to continue life as smoothly as possible, albeit pretty abnormally. So this doesn't help everyone. It doesn't help the service workers, doesn't help a lot of blue-collar workers. But if you think about the industry and some of the trends I've been playing for the last 10 or even 20 years, mobile, social, cloud, and e-commerce, these are the industries that are keeping our economy afloat right now. And, you also look at it in Silicon Valley. We have amazing healthcare and biotech industries here. And, I look to my friend Annie Lukemeyer, who's at UCSF. She's a professor of medicine, specializing in HIV and infectious disease. She's on the front lines of the phase 3 trials for remdesivir and other solutions. And you've got the test company, Cepheid in Sunnyvale, and they've developed a test that gives results in under an hour. And so, and Kerry Gunn down in San Diego at Genelite, they've got a 30-minute antibody test, COVID antibody test now. And so you see the solutions that are being brought to bear so quickly. It's truly amazing.
Yeah. So how are you then, thinking about, I know that some of the trends, as you just said, are going to continue, obviously, but how are you thinking about the idea that some things may never go back, Glenn, or at least slowly may climb their way back to the way they were, work from home or, remote learning, businesses maybe not taking as much office space per se, and using that extra capital that they have and deploying it in their servers or other areas of technology that may be forced changes for the foreseeable future, and then taking that into a perspective on how you view investment ideas moving forward?
Yeah, so it's a great question. Nobody really knows how fast everything comes back and what behaviors are permanently changed. I mean, if we do look back to 2001 and think about 9/11, and there were a lot of statements made about how travel would be curtailed in the future, business travel, and a lot of those things just didn't come true. So I think there will be a time of healing and people feeling less safe about getting on an airplane and sitting shoulder to shoulder with someone, for 5 hours going across the country, or going to a theater, watch a movie instead of watching it at home on Netflix. So I think there are some things that will be lasting. Some will be more temporary. I think for us, as I said, we've really focused our fund in on, e-commerce, cloud, social networking, the sharing economy, and three of those four are working tremendously well in this time, in this crisis, and I think they'll continue to work really well coming out of it. The way we look at it, I mean, at the bottom, it's over the weekend, and I do think that is probably the bottom. We may test it, we may not. I'm not sure if that really matters if you think about if you're investing over a 1 to 2 year time frame, or hopefully a lot longer than that. But we look at it and say, okay, 2020, throw the results out. It really doesn't matter what happens as long as the companies that you're investing in survive. So really, then it's like, how quickly can our companies get back to peak earnings, cash flow, revenue? And you looked out, okay, maybe it's 2022. You put a 2022, 2023. You put a valuation on that, and you buy or sell it accordingly. And that's how we're thinking about it. That's how we're looking at the opportunity set.
Steve Weiss, I know that you know Glenn well. Do you have a question for him?
For a long time. Yes. So when you look at some of the sharing economy and some of the social stocks, their balance sheets aren't great. And before this all started, they were going to lose money for an extended period of time. How are you assessing that risk in terms of your portfolio? Are you lowering those positions to certain levels and increasing of Facebook, which has seen their metrics go sky high? How are you taking a look at that?
Yeah, great question, Steve, and thank you. We look at it and see, you saw that Uber came out and talked about their balance sheet quite explicitly at the beginning of the week, and made the case that they had plenty of cash, an extra $4 billion, and no one, as I said, no one knows how quickly we're going to pull out of this, and what the infection rates are going to do exactly. But I think, you look at the history, you look at what's happened with some of the doomsday estimates about the disease, and those are getting pulled back now. Neil Ferguson in the UK has said, well, I'm not pulling back. It's the behavior that's changed. So that's why I'm changing my estimates on what the danger here is. But I think ultimately we're going to go back, and there's going to be plenty of opportunity for Uber and Lyft. I mean, I think if you look at the more dense urban populations, which are really, their best markets, you're going to feel a heck of a lot better about getting an Uber or Lyft in the morning than getting on the subway in New York City, or the T in Boston, or whichever system you're on in your respective urban area. And so I think that Uber and Lyft are going to come roaring out of this. Frankly,
Scott, can I follow up with
it hasn't been great on the way down, but I do think they'll come back very, very strongly.
So if I can follow with one more. So I talked about on the show yesterday, we're looking at 5G. We had been looking at it before, but we feel that it's going to be, the deployment and adoption will be accelerated, and that's one of the changes that will come out of this. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I think we're hearing of all kinds of reports about very good news for the wireless carriers in terms of people relying on their connections quite a bit. It's their lifeline. It's their to their work. And also home connections. Many friends of mine have told me about calling up and trying to upgrade their connection to their cable company to a faster connection. I'm not sure it necessarily helps because I think it's a network congestion issue.